In the heart of Odwenyi, a village clothed in red earth and green hills, where the cock's crow was the morning bell, lived two girls as different as fire and water, Adiz and Oluchi. They were born just days apart, breastfed under the same thatched roof by mothers who laughed together over cracked calabashes and clay pots. Adiz, the first, was the kind who bent her head when elders spoke, who swept her mother's compound before the sun broke through the mist. She had soft eyes like water at dawn and a voice that never rose higher than necessary. Oluchi, on the other hand, was a thunderstorm trapped in a girl's body. Her laughter was loud, her tongue sharper than a fresh razor, and if anyone dared to insult Adiz, Oluchi's fists spoke louder than words. From childhood to their ripe mating years, the two were inseparable. They pounded yam together during village feasts, danced at moonlight gatherings, and whispered secrets beside the stream. Adiz would plead, "Oluchi, Baiko, don't fight today." And Oluchi would roll her eyes and mutter, "Let them not look for my trouble first." Everyone in Odwenyi knew them. Adiz, the gentle one with waist beads that clinked softly when she walked, and Oluchi, the storm in a wrapper who once chased a boy with a pestle for calling Adiz bush girl. But time, like the river, never stays still. Soon, the girls began to blossom like the Udala trees in Harmattan. Suitors began knocking. Some came with tubers of yam, others with kegs of palm wine. Most came for Adiz, drawn to her calm like flies to honey. But Oluchi, she chased them all away with her mouth, shouting, "If you cannot talk to me with sense, shift. Adiz deserves better." Then one market day, as the sun sat lazily behind the palm trees and the air smelled of roasted maize and fresh soap, they were walking back from Eek Market with baskets balanced on their heads, when a strange man in a fine shirt and dark glasses stopped beside them in a black car. It was sleek, foreign-looking, with a gleaming shine that made Oluchi squint. "Hello," the man said, smiling at Oluchi. "You are very beautiful. Can I get to know you better?" Oluchi looked him up and down and scoffed. "Carry your dry mouth and go. With this your borrow Poe's car. Who knows whether it's even your own?" The man blinked, stunned, and Adiz quickly bowed her head. "Baiko, forgive my friend. She doesn't mean it like that." He turned to Adiz, and for the first time, his smile changed, it softened. "You speak with respect. What's your name?" "Adiz," she said, barely audible. "Nice name. I'm Hugo. Maybe I'll see you again." They thought that was the end. But 2 days later, Hugo returned to Odwenyi with a grander car, a bigger smile, and a plan in his heart. And that was when everything began to change. Word spreads in Odwenyi faster than wildfire in dry season. By the time Hugo returned with a bigger car, a glossy, wine-colored SUV that looked like it drank palm wine for fuel, everyone in the village knew. Children ran after it shouting, "Oyabo car! Oyabo car!" And the elders stroked their chins, wondering which man in their midst had such connections. He didn't ask for Oluchi this time. He came straight for Adiz. It was a Saturday evening. The sun was folding itself into the belly of the sky, casting long shadows across the thatched compounds. Women were sitting outside with their legs stretched, plaiting hair and sifting melon seeds. Adiz was in front of her mother's kitchen, peeling cassava into a bowl when she heard the hum of an engine too smooth to belong to any villager. She looked up, and there he was. Hugo stepped out in a white senator, his shoes polished until they reflected the fading sunlight. In his hand, he held a bottle of wine and a basket filled with provisions, milk, sardines, toiletries, and canned drinks that no one in Odwenyi could afford without crossing 3 markets and a prayer. Adiz's heart fluttered, not because of the gifts, but because of the man who brought them. There was something about his calm, the way he looked at her like she mattered. Not like she was just a village girl who pounded yam and fetched water, but like she was something more. Her mother came out, wiping her hands on her wrapper. "I am Hugo," he said, bowing slightly. "I came to greet you, Ma, and to ask if I can get to know your daughter better." The woman raised her brows, but kept her tone polite. "You brought wine to ask, and you ask with respect. Sit down, young man. Let me get you water." By nightfall, the whole village was buzzing. Girls whispered Adiz's name under their breath with envy. Boys grumbled and kicked stones along the road. Even the elders began to debate under the moonlight. Who is his father? Where is his village? Which land does he say he owns? Oluchi, however, was not smiling. She had watched from her compound as Hugo presented his basket like a suitor before Adi's mother. Her heart turned over. Something hot and bitter boiled in her belly. How could he ignore her after everything? After she'd fought for Adi's time and time again? After she was the one with the sharp tongue and fast legs? Was it not her that men feared and respected? That night, as the crickets sang and the night breeze rustled the mango trees, Oluchi stormed into Adi's hut without knocking. "So this is how it is now?" she demanded. Adiz was startled, still untying her headscarf. "What is what? You're keeping secrets from me, and you and that Hugo of a man." "I didn't hide anything, Oluchi," Adiz said, voice trembling. "You were there when he first spoke to us." Oluchi folded her arms. "But he came back for you, not me." Adiz didn't reply. There was nothing to say. She had not called Hugo, had not even dreamed of him returning. But he had, and he had looked at her like a man who had made a choice. Oluchi's silence that followed was long and heavy. Then she turned and walked out without another word. The next week, Hugo returned again, this time with more gifts. And he brought 2 men with him, claiming they were his uncles. They sat under the mango tree in Adi's compound and talked long into the afternoon. They drank palm wine and promised marriage. They spoke in Igbo tinted with city grammar, boasting about projects and investments. But Oluchi was watching. The next time she saw Hugo in the market square, she smiled at him, softly, sweetly, her usual fire buried behind a mask of charm. She touched his arm as she laughed. She asked questions about the city. She admired his car. And by the end of that market day, she had planted a seed in Hugo's mind. A seed of confusion. A week later, Adiz waited for Hugo. He had promised to take her to the next village for a friend's wedding. She wore her best wrapper and tied her gelly carefully, her heart dancing like a drum. But Hugo never came. The next day, whispers began to spread like disease. People had seen Hugo, in his car, with Oluchi in the front seat, her arms resting on the window like a queen surveying her kingdom. Adiz felt something break inside her. She said nothing. She cried no tears. But that night, she lay on her mat and stared at the raffia ceiling until the rooster crowed. 3 moons later, Hugo and Oluchi got married. It was a rushed wedding. No fanfare, no village announcement, just a few bottles of wine and a carton of malt. People shook their heads. The elders grunted. But Oluchi wore her new status like gold, parading herself as Madame Hugo. They moved into a rented flat in the next village. And for a while, Oluchi shined like morning sun. She wore city clothes, powdered her face, and came to Odwenyi every week to show off her husband. But a lie cannot hide forever. The first crack came when her landlord locked their gate, shouting that Hugo had not paid rent. Then the car disappeared. Taken for repairs, they said. Then Hugo stopped coming out at all, his shoulders slouched, his eyes empty. It didn't take long before Oluchi's voice filled the compound morning and night. "You this useless man. Is this what you promised me? You lied to me. You don't have anything." Slaps flew. Words heavier than curses landed. And Adiz? She kept to herself. Quiet. Humble. Still going to the stream every morning with her calabash and dignity intact. She did not laugh when Oluchi's name was dragged in gossip. She did not boast. She simply lived. Until one day, something unexpected happened at the stream. It was the rainy season in Odwenyi, the time when the sky often frowned and the roads melted into thick red mud. Yet, the stream never stopped calling. That morning, as the first light yawned over the hills, Adiz rose from her bamboo mat, tied her wrapper tightly around her chest, and placed her water pot gently on her head. The compound was still asleep, save for the goats grunting softly in their pen. She stepped quietly onto the narrow footpath, the leaves wet from last night's drizzle brushing against her legs. The stream lay beyond the cassava fields and the ogbono trees, a sacred place where generations of village women had bathed, laughed, gossiped, and fetched life-giving water. Adiz walked alone, her thoughts quiet but restless. Since Oluchi's marriage to Hugo, things had shifted. The bond they once had, tight like fresh palm wine sealed in calabash, had thinned, stretched by jealousy and betrayal. Yet Adiz never spoke ill. She simply watched. As she reached the stream, she bent to fill her pot, the cold water rushing in quickly. That was when she saw her, an old woman, bent and weary. She stood on the opposite bank, her wrapper soaked, a heavy gourd trembling in her arms. She looked like she might fall at any moment. Without thinking, Adiz dropped her pot and splashed through the shallow water. "Inini, give it to me, let me carry it," she said gently. The woman's hands trembled with relief. "Ah, my daughter, may your days be long. May your womb never know bitterness." Adiz smiled, placing the gourd on her head. "Where is your house, Mama?" The old woman pointed beyond the stream, up a narrow footpath shadowed by tall bamboo. "Just after the bamboo bend. My bones are no longer strong, but I must drink water. It's only me at home." They walked together in silence, the woman's pace slow, her breath shallow. Adiz looked at her and thought of her own mother, still strong but aging. She thought of how easily people were forgotten when they were no longer useful. The woman's compound sat on a small rise, a modest hut with a collapsing roof but a swept yard and a clay bench at the front. When they arrived, she sighed deeply, the way one exhales not just tiredness but loneliness. "My name is Mama Nena," she said. "My son is late, but my grandson, he comes from the city to see me sometimes. If the gods spare his life, he will come again soon." Adiz nodded. "Mama, I will come and fetch water for you from now on." The old woman's eyes glistened. "You will? My daughter, you will?" "I will," Adiz said simply. "You remind me of someone, and helping you brings peace to my heart." From that day, she came often, not just to fetch water, but to sweep the compound, pick herbs, even cook when Mama Nina felt too weak to light the fire. The bond they built was slow but deep, quiet but strong. One afternoon, as the sun pressed down heavy on the thatched roofs and the village children chased each other with muddy feet, Mama Nina held Adiz's hand and looked at her closely. "You're not just a girl. You're a blessing disguised as one. My chitty must see you." Adiz laughed. "Mama, stop." But Mama Nina's face was serious. "I have prayed to the gods. If he comes back and you are still here, I will tell him, this is the girl I want for you." Adiz bowed her head. She had no husband, no suitor left. Not since Hugo had turned his eyes from her to Oluchi. Not since the village began whispering that maybe she was too quiet, too plain, too old-fashioned. So she said nothing. But something inside her, a soft, hidden part, hoped. Then it happened. The day Chitty returned was the day Odwenyi changed. He drove in quietly, without the noise of Hugo's blaring music or the puff of dust from rented tires. His car was black, sleek, but modest. His shirt was clean but simple. His eyes, sharp, kind, observant. Mama Nina was pounding yam in her mortar when the car horn sounded. "My grandson has come," she cried, dropping the pestle. Chitty came out, tall and bright like sunrise after a long storm. He embraced his grandmother, kissed her cheeks, and then his eyes found Adiz, standing at the corner with her wrapper wet from the stream and her hands still smelling of lemongrass. "Grandma," he said slowly, "who is this angel?" Mama Nina laughed. "She is the one I told you about. The one who carries my water and sweeps my compound without being asked. The one whose heart is clean like river water." Chitty stepped forward and offered his hand. "My name is Chitty." "Adiz," she whispered, barely able to breathe. That evening, Chitty refused to let her leave early. He insisted she eat with them. He asked about her life, her dreams, her past. He never once mentioned where she lived or how little she had. He simply saw her. From then on, he came to visit her family. Not with noise, not with fake charm, but with honesty. And Adiz's parents, already humbled by her kindness, opened their doors to him. Oluchi heard the story 3 days later. It reached her through the gossiping lips of village girls returning from the stream. They said Adiz was about to marry a true city man, that the man was rich but not proud, that he was handsome and well-trained and had spoken to the elders about a proper introduction. Oluchi sat on the bench outside her compound, her third child crying inside, her wrapper stained with ogbono soup. Hugo was snoring inside their room, jobless, as usual. The fan had stopped turning because they hadn't had light in 2 days. She looked at the path leading out of the village, and she wept. In the heart of Odwenyi village, when the cockerels crowed at dawn, every compound stirred to life. Smoke curled from cooking huts, children laughed as they fetched firewood, and elders sat under mango trees, nodding slowly at stories told 1,000 times. But now, there was a new tale being whispered, one that made tongues wag and hearts burn with envy or admiration. They called it Adiz's destiny. It was the talk of the market women, the palm wine tappers, even the young boys who sold roasted corn by the roadside. The same Adiz who had once been mocked for being too quiet, too modest, too ordinary, had become the bride of Chitty, the grandson of the highly respected Mama Nena. And not just a bride, no. Chitty came from the city with wealth that wasn't loud but deep, silent, and undeniable. He didn't need to boast. His actions spoke. By the time the traditional marriage came, Odwenyi had never seen anything quite like it. Chitty's family came in 2 sleek SUVs. The elders brought baskets of yams, jars of palm oil, a keg of fresh palm wine tapped that morning, and a fat white goat as part of the bride price. Adiz wore a richly embroidered blouse with George wrapper and coral beads. She looked radiant, like the morning sun rising after a long, stormy night. And Oluchi? She stood at the edge of the gathering, her wrapper faded, her eyes hollow, her youngest child clinging to her leg, crying for food. Hugo was nowhere to be found. Rumor had it he had taken a motorbike to the next village to gamble again. Her stomach tightened as she watched Adiz dance, graceful, joyful, glowing like a woman finally seen, finally loved. It was supposed to be her. She had been the beautiful one, the loud one, the fierce one. She was the girl who fought battles, who turned heads, who chased the brightest things with her bare hands. But somehow, along the way, her brightness became smoke, clouding her vision, blinding her to truth. She remembered the day she snatched Hugo from Adiz. She had mocked her friend then, told her she was too slow, too dull for a man like that. She had bathed herself in pride. Now she bathed in sweat and bitterness, scraping cassava at dawn and listening to insults from a man who had lied his way into her life. That evening, after the last dance at Adiz's marriage, Oluchi sat alone by the village square. Her 3 children slept on a raffia mat. The moon was bright, almost mocking. Mama Nena, now older and frilier, walked up slowly, leaning on a stick. "My daughter," she said gently, looking at Oluchi. "You used to shine. What happened?" Oluchi tried to hold back her tears, but they betrayed her. "Mama, I thought I was choosing for love. I thought I was doing the smart thing." "Sometimes the smart thing is the quiet thing," Mama Nena said. "Sometimes it is in silence that blessings find us." She sat beside her and held her hand. "Do not envy Adiz. Her journey came with pain too. She waited, she lost, she wept. But she never fought to steal what wasn't hers." Oluchi nodded slowly, her heart breaking and mending at once. "Mama, I want to start again." Mama Nena smiled. "Then start, not to find a husband, but to find yourself." Months passed. Adiz now lived in Enugu City. Her compound had bright flowers blooming by the gate. Chitty opened a tailoring business for her. He said he wanted her to be more than a wife. He wanted her to be fulfilled. Each morning, she rose early and prayed by the window. The city still hushed beneath her feet. She had never forgotten the stream, or the woman who changed her life by needing her help. She called Mama Nena often, sending gifts and food. And Oluchi? She began to change too. She started small, selling akara by the village road. Then roasting maize. She stopped chasing noise and began finding peace in the rhythm of survival. One day, she apologized to Adiz. They met by the old stream again. "I wronged you," Oluchi said, her voice shaky. "Not just by taking Hugo, but by thinking I was better, by forgetting who we were." Adiz hugged her. "We were girls then, but we are women now." They sat by the water, like they used to, their feet dipped into the flowing stream that never stopped moving, just like time. And the stream, ancient and wise, carried their laughter once again into the heart of Odwenyi.